Modern medicine has achieved a feat that would have been unimaginable a century ago. We have successfully pushed the limits of human survival, extending the average lifespan longer than at any other point in history. To understand what those extra years actually look like, we need a way to measure them. Imagine a graph where the horizontal axis tracks your age and the vertical axis tracks your relative capacity, your physical strength, your mental sharpness, and your overall ability to function. This is the standard human trajectory. You start at 100% capacity, but right around middle age, that line starts to slide. It drops steadily, then drags on for decades in a long, flat tail of low function. Our current drive for longevity has successfully extended the duration of the human life, but it has left us living in a state of illness for a much larger portion of those years. The scientific community's response to this decline is the pursuit of Healthspan. This shifts the focus toward maximizing the number of years we live free of chronic conditions, like type 2 diabetes, heart disease, or Alzheimer's. This chart shows how intervention works. Look at the gap between the solid natural trajectory and the dashed line above it. Treating diseases early pushes the drop-off right. But even on this improved trajectory, a 50-year-old operates at significantly lower capacity than in their youth. You might be technically disease-free at 50, but a healthy 25-year-old can still run circles around you in terms of raw physical output, cardiovascular endurance, and cognitive sharpness. Simply avoiding a diagnosis is a passive state. Accepting a gradual, steady decline leaves a gap in our potential that requires a different approach to aging. In a preprint study recently published by researchers at Duke University and several international partners, a different metric emerged: Peakspan. The core thesis of Peakspan is that avoiding disease sets the bar too low. The goal is to stay as close to your absolute maximum physiological function as possible for as long as you can. To reach that goal, we have to identify where that maximum actually sits on the human timeline. Biologically, the peak of human performance occurs between the ages of 20 and 25. This is when your biological systems reach their absolute maximum capacity. Your VO2 max peaks, your musculoskeletal health is at its strongest, and your fluid intelligence, your ability to process new information, is at its height. The mathematical objective of Peakspan is to take that 25-year-old peak and maintain your capacity within 90% of that maximum for several decades. This chart shows how that objective redraws the graph. Instead of a gentle slope, the Medicine 3.0 line stays high and flat. The physical decline is compressed into a sudden drop at the end, known in research as squaring the longevity curve. Under this model, we are no longer trying to slow down the rate of our decay. We are actively working to preserve our peak performance. Achieving a squared curve requires moving away from the traditional medical framework of Medicine 2.0 and into a proactive model called Medicine 3.0. Medicine 2.0 is reactive. It waits until you are already broken or diseased before a doctor intervenes to manage the symptoms. Medicine 3.0 is proactive. It focuses on continuous optimization and intervention long before any decline actually starts. To stay within that 90% threshold of your peak, you have to actively track the specific biomarkers that defined your 25-year-old self. This requires routine testing of your cardiorespiratory fitness, your VO2 max, to ensure your heart and lungs are not losing their absolute capacity over time. It also means tracking your metabolic responses to food. By monitoring blood sugar, you can prevent energy-draining spikes that damage your cellular health. This work begins in youth and midlife. You are building a database of physiological reserve, a deep well of strength and endurance that you can draw from as entropy begins to affect the body. Success in this model means maintaining the physiological capacity of your youth as a fixed state, preserving your peak function until the final descent.